My name is Howard Weinstein. I'm the program director for the Boston Crusaders Drum Bugle Corps.
And I'm Rich Viano, the percussion caption head and designer for the Corps.
And we're going to spend some time with you right now talking to you about our 2003 program, Bravo. You'll notice that it's a Spanish program in flavor, and we had a lot of success with a Spanish program several years ago, and it's very important to us to be able to have a connection point with our audience. And how we talk about it with our kids many times is we call Spanish programs for drum corps the rock and roll drum corps.
I was very excited to find out we were doing this type of programming because Spanish music is such a large umbrella of textures and grooves. It's just a lot of fun to arrange this music.
You'll notice here in the opening scene of the show that the members are all in duos, pairs, and Kevin Ford, our show coordinator, uses that as a recurring theme throughout the entire program. The opening number here is Bolero, and if you're familiar at all with our 2000 show, the Red Show, we actually take the end of that show and merge it into here in the beginning. So after this opening movement scene, we actually use the same music and drill that we used at the end of that show. And it was really cool when we put this on the field, and it actually made me lonesome for that drum corps in a lot of ways as well.
We've also borrowed the snare drum, the field drum from the 2000 show, and with the three main dance ingredients of the tango, bolero, and paso doble that is woven throughout the program, the snare drum becomes a huge character piece throughout the program. And you'll see in different ways, different versions of snare drum textures are integrated in as a main character throughout the whole show.
Now we work very diligently to make sure that the crowd has a direct connection point with the drum corps all the way throughout the entire show, right here from the opening and moving here into the next number. This next piece is probably our most original portion of the show. Would you say, Rich?
Absolutely. Jay Kennedy, the music arranger and the brass arranger for the program, did a great job of taking very common Spanish themes and juxtaposing them on one on top of another. Brilliant job.
Now, as this piece develops, we're introducing various elements of the drum corps. We just introduced the baritones and the snare drums and basses. Now you'll see trumpets are featured here on the left side of the field, and we always work to make sure that the color guard is interpreting what's happening from a musical to visual standpoint.
It's a lot of fun to watch this part in particular because as we were cleaning these things in rehearsals, I just recall having my own individual drill to just get through this little conglomeration of battery people out on the field. It's a lot of fun to remember that.
Now this portion of the show is probably the most exposed drill we have. Very, very demanding movement and very hard music being played on top of it.
I think I lost about 8 of the 10 pounds on tour right here chasing this snare lick down.
Working our way to a major, major impact here, and this is where we end this chapter of the piece and set you up for the next part of the show.
And again, Jay does a great job here with the metric modulation, creating a nice moment of impact and giving the audience a chance to react, and then picks us right back up with a brilliant transition.
I'm extremely proud of the color guard this season. They had dealt with a lot of challenges and just came through it incredibly.
Again, we're segment featuring again, here come the tenors down the aisles. They're going to pass it over to the snares with the sopranos.
All the rhythmics in the front, the rifles and the sabers, and interpreting what the snares and tenors and sopranos just were doing. Now we're developing into a full ensemble hit. I think we did a lot of experimentation with textures in the pit here, didn't we, as far as the sounds mixed with the brass?
Certainly did. You're looking for, different levels of metallics inside there and being answered back and forth with just the low drums with absolutely no metallics out of the battery in the back. Nice contrast and comparison.
Here's where we become very traditional with the company front forward, our conquest shots that we put in the show every year.
And a combination of those metals and battery parts together at the end.
And we sparingly use the color guard all in one piece of equipment like that because we wanted to have that kind of impact when we do use it. There's that fine line of using eurythmic movement in the brass musicians while still giving it a military look in the uniform that we wear. It's a very fine line.
This piece too, Howard, was original composition by Jay, the arranger. and a great use of metric modulation, establishing the ending tempo of the opener and using modulation to get us down to a much slower tempo for the ballad, and combining a 3/2 pattern with the battery that just worked really well for us and a lot of fun.
And I'm always very careful not to use the brass facing backfield too much, but I thought it really fit this piece well. And there's a little quote from Time to Say Goodbye, which actually was our ballad in 2000. We just wanted to have that layering and that connection point with it. Very exposed drill there. But this next piece is actually the prayer. And what we did is we took the prayer, the piece, and we juxtaposed it with a tango type feel on top of it. So you hear that in the brass. The brass are playing the melodic ballad, and the pit is actually doing the tango portion. And there's duos again between the percussion, color guard. But we wrestled with this a lot because I didn't want it to be just a typical drum corps ballad. I really wanted it to be something that was special. We work really hard at Boston Crusaders to make sure that ballad is just one of the biggest features of the entire show. Really pull on the heartstrings of the audience. It's important to me as a program coordinator to take the audience through several different types of emotions during that 10 minutes.
Again, on this part, we're gonna integrate that Bolero, an adaptation of the Bolero rhythm right here, just again foreshadowing and kind of in an overture-ish type of a way, just to introduce these themes as they lay one on top of another throughout the program as it develops.
And I always wonder as a program coordinator how much other drum corps go through changes throughout the season of their show, because this show has changed tremendously from beginning to end. It's almost an entirely different show.
It's almost like a painting, Howard, where a painting really never is completed. It just stops in interesting places.
And as I sit here and watch Ruthie spinning that flag at the end of the ballad, I think she's one of the 39 age-outs we had in this drum corps this year. Each year the corps gets stronger and stronger and older, and the age-outs this year were just really, really special to us. Now here we're working into our next transition, into our next piece. Transitions are extremely important to us because that's what seams the entire show together.
Can't help but remember the day the flags came and just what a difference that made. And being a percussion designer and sitting on top of the tower and worrying about my own local issues and just being so blown away by the field coverage and the size of those flags, just what a great addition.
And here we are as we begin the closing production. The camera zooming in on Melissa Ganser, and she actually functions as a matador, taunting each side of the field back and forth. And you'll see kids run out of the drill. Rich, did you see Olin there, the way he works the camera?
Year after year, Olin seems to find his moment on the camera. It's a kind of an inside joke within the group. And kind of a tongue-in-cheek Spanish treatment right here. Jerry Carpenter, who arranges the pit production for us, did a really good job of developing this piece as we lead into, again, the biggest of the snare drum textures, as you're about to see.
As we watch the students that run across the field back and forth like that, I compare it to the time when we marched in drum corps, as we marched in the same drum corps together, and that would have been unheard of to have something like that take place.
That's a lot of snare drums. I'm so proud of those guys. I remember when we unveiled what we were about to do with this production, we kind of had the deer in headlights look, especially the guys that did such a great job of cleaning this. A complete collaboration effort on everybody's part there. And a great reaction from the audience again. You know, Boston doing a good job of connecting with that audience.
It's finding that fine line of being innovative, progressive, yet recognizable.
Now we're taking Malagueña in some new directions, where Jay has integrated the 7/4 feel to Malagueña, just a different flavor and taste to it.
We're getting ready to develop this halftime funk section, I would call it. And I've seen a lot of groups do this type of music, but they do it more from a dance interpretation. We took a straight drill interpretation of this music here.
Again, this was, if you didn't know how to get around this particular spot during a rehearsal, I don't think you would make it to the end of the day. And I think many of the adjudicators that have gotten trapped in that middle triangle would agree. Now we're going to feature the entire percussion ensemble and completely shifting gears to Chick Corea's Spanish Fantasy and using the full percussion to transition into adding the horns in right here. There's a very famous piece of that Return to Forever CD that has been broken apart to feature the battery segments.
Now we're starting to develop into the end of the show here, little by little, bring the crowd in with us, part by part, piece by piece, bringing them in, reeling them in. You'll see the drill start to get a little bit higher velocity. We're working our way to a very traditional part of the piece of Malagueña, like we used earlier, a very traditional part of Spanish Fantasy. When we get to this hit, which you can't play this piece without this hit, you just can't do it. And as you can see, the members had just as good of a time as the audience did with it. That's just drum corps, full, loud, playing, sustaining, impact. Again, some more very exposed linear Kevin Ford drill, and then we work our way back to duos again. And the kids got into this. Man, did they get into this. This whole movement sequence you're watching and the drill that's a part of it and the color guard work, all this was added about 3 weeks before the end of the season, and it's something we do each year just to bring the show to its highest performance level.
A lot of reintroductions of themes that you've heard previously, the Bolero theme sneaking it way back in there. Of all the changes that this ending went through, this retard is one of the only pieces that was in the actual original ending that made it all the way to the end of our journey.
Look at that crowd, listen to that crowd. There are judges. I mean, of course we're a competitive drum corps just like everybody else out there, but when we can please the crowd like that, we know we've done our job.
Wow, as I look out there and all the faces and names run through my head, it reminds me of a beginning and an end. You think of all the new people that have come through our program, and for them, this becomes a testimony of the potential that they possess inside of themselves. And for the age-outs, you know, they move on now, and this becomes a foundation and a true representation of what they can become in their future.